Libraries and Archives, Time Travelers Extraordinaire. This open forum examines the convergence of libraries, archives, and museums. With an increasing access to information online, regardless of location, what new role could and should libraries and archives play in making information accessible to all? And I think that this conversation actually builds off of the previous one very well, because here we're talking about the open accessibility of information, and previously we were talking about copyright and how much actually should be available. So as a recent student, it's very difficult to find research articles online for a very cheap price, but very easy to be able to find videos of Hovercat or to download movies and songs. So I look forward to see what you guys have to say. It's my pleasure, therefore, to this session is sponsored, this is very important, by the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, IGNCA, established in memory of Indira Gandhi. It's a center visualized around the study and experience of all of the arts, each form with its own integrity, yet also interdependent and interrelated with society and the world. So I'll begin by introducing Ms. Dipali Khanna. She is presently the member secretary of IGNCA. She has been responsible for revamping the center from an organization with low visibility to one on track to becoming a hub for content, resources, research, and interaction in the field of art and cultural heritage. Unfortunately, Mr. Alberto Manguel could not be with us today, but if he comes later on, we hope that he will also join us. Nicholson Baker is the author of 10 novels and 5 works of nonfiction. For his nonfiction book, Double Fold, Libraries and the Assault on Paper, he received the National Books Critics Award. He is also the recipient of the International Herman Hesse Prize and the Catherine Ann Porter Award from the American Academy of the Arts. Next we have Dr. Venu Vasudevan. Dr. Vasudevan is the Director General of National Museum and Vice Chancellor of National Museum Institute under the Ministry of Culture. He has been instrumental to reviving the museum and has played a key role in designing the Incredible India campaign and in organizing Kochi Biennale, an international art event. Dr. Shantanu Ganguly is the organizing secretary of the International Conference on Digital Libraries. He has received the Bonnie Hilditch International Librarian Award for Science and Technology, as well as the Roll of Honor conferred by TERI, the Energy and Resource Institute. The panel will be moderated by Bharti Sinha. Bharti Sinha has a postgraduate degree in journalism and mass communications from Mysore University. She is the MD of Bharti's Center of Learning and Development, and I will let Bharti take it from here.
Does this work? Yeah. Good evening, everyone. We're going to talk about libraries. So I just want to ask you, how do you use your local library? Does it arrive at your door on the back of an elephant? Can it float down the river to you? Or does it occupy a phone booth by the side of the road? Public libraries are a cornerstone of modern civilization. Yet, like the books in them, libraries face an uncertain future in the increasingly digital world. Undaunted librarians and our panelists around the globe are thinking up astonishing ways of reaching those in reading need, whether by bike in Chicago, boat in Laos, donkey in Colombia, or India, where many libraries expand their mission to function as a true community center. To take another one example, the open-air garden library in Tel Aviv, located in a park near the city's main bus station, supports asylum seekers and migrant workers with a stock of 3,500 volumes in 16 different languages. From the rise of the egalitarian little free library movement to the growth in luxury hotel libraries, the book revolution seems will never be far from the perfect next read. To take this thought into deeper understanding, our panelists will give you more insights about libraries. They're going to share their experiences, and then we'll of course have questions from your end which they will be answering. I would request Nicholas to address us please with some of his experiences first.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be part of this talk. I'm a library user. I remember my father taking me to the library when I was a little kid, and the library closed at 9, and the most exciting time was about 7 minutes to 9 when you knew that you had to stop at 9 o'clock. So I love public libraries, and I think that they serve not just a utilitarian function in that they have books that one doesn't own, but they also have a symbolic function, and they teach a community that books are important, and that there is a larger universe of books than even what's on sale at a bookstore. There's a bigger umbrella over the umbrella of what is commercially available. What is not commercial is part of what libraries do. So I grew up with that kind of feeling about libraries, and then I got involved in a critique of libraries in that I found out that libraries were getting rid of things. Big research libraries in the United States and in England were getting rid of very important holdings. One of the greatest newspaper collections in the world was owned by the British Library, because the British Library was sort of a symbol of British imperialism. And they had newspapers from all over the world, from Central America, from South America, from the United States, from India, from everywhere. And they decided to auction off all of their foreign newspapers at a certain point. And I happened to know, because I was in the middle of writing a book about newspapers, that these were some of the rarest printed objects in human history. The American newspaper that Joseph Pulitzer of the Pulitzer Prize invented, transformed in the 1890s, is much rarer than Gutenberg Bibles. It is so exceptionally rare that there are only 1 or 2 remaining copies of something that was printed in the millions every single day. Why did that happen? So what I was trying to do is explain how that happened, and it happened because libraries all were infected by the same enthusiasm at the same time in the 1950s. They got excited by microfilm. So you could buy little scrolls of plastic, and once you had those scrolls of plastic, you could ship out your beautiful bound volumes. I didn't think that was a good idea, and so I ended up forming a nonprofit. My wife and I bought the auctioned off volumes from the British Library and started the American Newspaper Repository, and we, in the end, I guess, saved the last remaining perfectly preserved run of Joseph Pulitzer's New York World, which is, for United States history, probably the most important newspaper we publish. So that's what I did. So I somehow turned from being an enthusiast of libraries to, at least temporarily, being a critic of certain library policies that came out of the Cold War. And now I'm just a person who likes to go to the library and take books out and read them.
Read them. But Nick, the Indians don't actually like to go to the classic libraries that we have. Is it there in your part of the world too?
I think, well, they're all different kinds of readers. There's some people who really like, well, what I like to do is if I'm staying in a bed and breakfast or an inn or something, I love the idea that they're just random books. I'm curious, what are other people reading? In the United States, there are all sorts of places where you can trade books, like in the supermarket. There's usually a table of books that people are getting rid of, and you can then take those books for free. There are lots of opportunities to read. In fact, books are not scarce at all. So the problem that libraries were first invented to solve, which was that books were exceedingly scarce, is not a problem anymore. books are everywhere, and people don't really want to own them forever. So that's what we're adjusting to now, I think.
Shantanu was just talking about how a library is actually like a joint family, how knowledge is transferred and things like that, how you can get information from your grandmother, how you can actually barter favors by teaching them the internet and actually knowing the traditional recipes. So I would like Shantanu to highlight on how he actually related the two.
See, I am the, let me tell you, I come from the Energy, Environment and Sustainable Development Organization called TERI. It's a renowned organization in the country today. As Bharti ji is mentioning, there is what we called it as a sustainable knowledge. You know, many of us must be aware of, there was a very famous law of conservation of mass and energy. That energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it is transformed from one form to another. There is a classical example I can give you. Even there is a law of conservation of knowledge and skills. Knowledge and skills are also neither created nor destroyed, but it is transformed from one form to another, one format to another. I'll give you a classical example in my real life. I have got a 10-year-old daughter. She doesn't love reading books, printed books, but unfortunately I got a Samsung tab for her, and she has got all the animations, e-books and everything. So she has gone through there, and throughout the day she spends her time either in the laptop or in my mobile or in that Samsung tab. But I have got a huge collection of printed books which she doesn't flip through, unless and until her mother will tell her that yes, you have to read it and you have to complete this chapter. Now she has become so smart, she teaches the entire technology to my mother, means to her grandmother. She said, I can teach you how to work on a laptop, I can teach you how to search information in a Samsung tab, I'll help you to do it in a mobile phone, but in return what you are going to give it to me? You have to teach me what are the basic ingredients are required for even cooking a tur dal, a pulses. What are the basic ingredients? If there is a palatable dish is cooked at my residence, immediately she will jump into my mother and will say, you have to teach me how you have done it. I want to learn it. I think there is a transfer of tacit knowledge takes place from my mother to my child. But there is always an exchange of knowledge and skills is taking place. But the most difficult part is today is putting all these children, putting my child, imbibing a reading habit among them, reading books. I face a similar kind of a problem in my institute. Every day, my Director General Dr. R.K. Pachori, he says, your footfalls in the library has come down drastically. What measures you are taking? You calculate the ROI. These are the questions, very sensitive questions he posed to me. So what I have started doing it, I call a particular day of a month as a special day. For a particular division, I display all their books, all their resources on that particular time, and I bring all the people of that place and offer a cup of tea, offer them something to eat inside the library and ask them, please explore my resources. And that is how it has increased the footfalls of my library. I think that strategy has worked with me.
We were just having a small discussion some time back, and Dr. Venu received a few messages, WhatsApp messages. And I just curiously looked into his phone and I saw Malayalam, Hindi and English. So he knows all those languages. And he says that he's proud because he dreams in his mother tongue. As we went on to discuss, I just asked him, why is it that we don't have Shakespeare and Wordsworth equivalents of our own Indian mythology or Indian stories in our textbooks? Venu will tell us something about it.
Well, I do not know whether I am qualified to talk about Shakespeare and why it's not getting popular in our textbooks. Our books, our authors are not as important. But I think one of the things which I was thinking about, particularly when I heard Nick also, was this whole thing about community libraries. And in the Indian context, as I was mentioning when we discussed, I think I'm concerned about the fact that community libraries, particularly in our hinterland, outside big cities, are disintegrating, are in a very bad situation. And I was trying to draw some connection between this sorry situation and the fact that there is an urban perspective, there is an anglicized perspective about libraries, which perhaps is impacting on the health of our rural libraries, of our community libraries. I grew up in a small town, and like millions of Indians who came from villages and small towns, the local library, such as it was the center of intellectual activity. It was a center for cultural activity. It was a center for debate, discussions, dissent. We know for a fact that in many parts of the country, independence movement, the thought process was taken to the Indian through these library movements. So from extremely vibrant, thriving, significant cultural entities, today these libraries face a threat of very existence. So I'm wondering why this is happening. Is it because our language publishing has declined? I don't think so. I can speak about Malayalam, I can speak about Tamil. The publishing industry is doing very well. In fact, perhaps much better than the English. Publishing industry. If it's not that, then is it because that we are losing the reading habit? I wouldn't know. I don't have the data. But there is a possibility. Or is it because the educated Indian is moving away from his or her mother tongue? Such a lovely phrase. Your mother's tongue is what you heard the first thing. Your language that's the language in which you dream. That's the language in which you were scolded the first time. Are we moving away from that? Is this generation of anglicized, urbanized Indians not passing on this wonderful legacy of ours to the next generation? And is that the reason why it's a very facile way of saying that, look, I have the internet, I have the Kindle, I have millions of books to be downloaded, and I really don't need the community library? I'm a little concerned about these things.
So again, as we were talking there, Dipali was very concerned about why scholars are not actually going to libraries anymore, because the libraries were created for research, were created to help people to go and find all the kinds of documents that they wanted to. She handles a very, very big library. I want her to tell you about her library, and also why the popularity of the libraries are really not so popular these days. So about your beautiful library that you were mentioning.
Yeah. So I'll talk very briefly about the Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, the library. It's supposed to be the best library in the country on books on art and culture, periodicals, We have a rare book collection, a rare book section. We've got a personal collection of literary giants, literally, and we've got the slides, we've got microfilms, we've got everything. The concern certainly, when I joined there a little over 2 years ago, and this really beautiful library, mammoth library, and it looked like it was completely neglected. Here, that's why when I was asking Nicholas that I think things are a little different in your parts of the world, because we somewhere didn't realize that you just don't buy books and keep them there and then expect everybody to come. There are a whole lot of other facilities that you have to provide, some basic facilities, which in India I think often we forget about that, or maybe in the earlier nowadays maybe they are getting more conscious of that. So we were very concerned. We spent a lot of time dwelling on it, and to some extent Namita always talked about our library. So there's a niche scholars, a group of scholars who come and refer to it. A lot of their books are made from, they write books based on the research they've done there. There's a lot of audiovisual documentation based on what they read in the library. But you don't put up such a huge library. You don't spend money every year buying so many books just for the small niche of scholars. Frankly, it's just not. So although I'll just, if I'm just complete this. So although I don't believe in an ROI, but certainly there has to be, some value for money in the sense of more scholars. Even if it is for scholars, so where are the scholars? Why are they not coming? That's one aspect. And the other is, when you have books on art and cultural heritage, I would not say that it has to be restricted to scholars. How are you going to have how are you going to have the younger generation actually flip through those books and get interested in your cultural heritage? I'll take your question here.
So how about just, encouraging libraries to now become small community activity centers where kids can actually come and see the Mohini Attam instead of the book, come and see it there, and then the book displayed, or maybe the book put there for the kids to flip through and actually see a live act, because kids of today actually like to see things happening in front of them. They wouldn't really like to want to go into a book like that. Yeah. So why don't we convert our libraries into cultural activity centers?
Well, I think to some extent we are, we've got such beautiful spaces that we don't need to use the library reading room into a performing space. But having said that, thanks to Namita, she started a book reading sort of a club once a month, basically so that outsiders come and and it's a fact, when they come there they say, oh, we didn't know you had such a beautiful library. So and the best I've noticed, we've had these children's books released in our library, and when a child comes, you can be sure he comes with grandparents and uncles and aunts, and the whole library gets, so we've done that. We've rationalized the reading spaces, we've made them more sort of user friendly. We've put more, and even our online data was not really very user friendly. We've even done that. And but there's always this thought in my mind, especially we have a budget every year to buy more books. So you're always really a little worried, even though we have a real good advisory group which is telling you which are the books you need to buy and all that. But are we really buying the best books? Are we doing the best by the library, considering its size, its proportion? So that's where I was saying that, Nicholas, if you had a library in the West, in your parts of the world, you would probably ensure that basic facilities are available. We are trying to do that, and I'm hoping that with with a greater outreach, we are actually, because of our personal collections, we are inviting researchers to come with and undertake fellowships based on our sort of rare books, our personal collections. Our diary of IGNCA this year, which we gave the NIFT, the National Institute of Fashion Technology, they have taken out the diary based on some of the really beautiful illustrations from the rare book series. So we are doing that. We are doing these, and then the calendar is on the rare book series, and so it says there, this is taken out from so and so book. So I mean, these are the things we are doing, but one would always look for more suggestions. And of course, we've got many librarians not well trained, which is another matter. In a government sector, you hire them 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
They're not updated.
They don't keep up with, the latest technology. So those are our issues. Yeah.
Nick, I would like to share a small thing with you, that at the end of a book fair, there are famous book fairs that happen in India all the time, and at the end, on the last day, books are sold away at as less as at 20 rupees a book. Is that fair, Nick?
I think it makes sense. I mean, everyone wants, there's a whole pile of books, and what are you going to do with them? So the book business is supply and demand. If you've got a stack of 20 books and you don't want to cart them back to the bookstore, you lower the price. So I'm not bothered by that. There are developments in publishing, which everyone knows about. Amazon Unlimited changes the price of books from a few dollars for an author to a few cents for an author. That's a huge difference. It's not just on the last day of the book fair, it's all the time. It means that writers who are sort of on the edge of being able to support themselves suddenly can't support themselves. So we're in the midst of a revolution that way. On the other hand, maybe it's good for us, because as a writer, I've supported myself and my family as a writer for close to 30 years. Has it been good for me to be able to make a living as a writer? Maybe I should have had to, have another kind of job and hold writing as a more precious act that I would do in the beginning and the end of the day. I don't know. I do know that there is a function that's different in a research library than in a community library. I live in a little village. The community just decided we were going to spend several $1 million to build a library, which is actually a ridiculous idea, because the community doesn't need more books. The community probably is buying fewer books and reading fewer books, but it's a symbol. So the community has a sense that a library is going to stand for something important, just the way the Jaipur Festival stands for reading, even though what we're doing is we're not sitting here reading, we're actually talking. So, but in big research libraries, it's a whole different thing. I, as a writer, must have a huge research library in order to write the books that I want to write. So big research libraries are always little used. They're always gigantic places where a given researcher touches only one tiny piece of the collection. And that's a beautiful thing. In fact, scholars are, if something becomes widely available, let's say there's a huge database of a certain kind of poetry, scholars will say, oh, everyone knows about that, so I'll go over here to this little known. I'll look. Scholars are always trying to find the things that are little used, because that's the excitement of scholarship. So research libraries are giving everybody this exciting feeling that there's still fields of forgotten knowledge that are there to be reawakened and brought back into knowledge. And that's what excites me.
Venu, you're an artist. He said it was okay if books were given away at 20 rupees. But what about the author? Is it fair? Because he picked up that little bit of information from that huge library and he did something on it, and it went away at 20 rupees. Is it fair as an artist?
Well, I think Nick answered your question when he said that as an author, he's fine. These are certain things that you don't really control. There are certain things on the horizon that should be concerning all of us, authors, artists. It's about rights, it's about percentages, it's about commissions. So I think that we enter another territory altogether. I think for books, and I believe that the end of the book as we know it, the physical book as we know it, is really not anywhere close by, particularly when I think about the Indian context. And I think authors can rest in peace, they can sleep in peace, because I think there's still a distance to go. I feel that this question about changing equations between authors, publishers, distributors, readers is going to engage the book community, the reading community, the publishing community for quite a while, and we will see different kinds and different models being worked upon. Things, some on the ascent, some things going to go down. So I think it's a very dynamic period we are living in. But I do know that when it comes to a physical library, yes, in the context of a country like India with multiple languages, with limited access, digital access, I believe that physical libraries as intellectual spaces, as research spaces, as cultural spaces, is going to stay with us for quite a while. And even today, instead of saying it's a sunset, it's going to go only, it's going to decline. I believe there is a strong case in investing into community libraries, because I believe that that's going to stand the country in good stead for some more time.
And Shantanu, you were mentioning about free book libraries that could probably be an option where people would read more and more and more.
Yes, I mean, this is a very interesting thing. Like we, all of us in this particular August gathering, I think we, all of us have got a huge collection of resources. The books we buy, we have got a huge collections and all. Now, I specifically what I do is basically the books which I have read myself, or books which are not of immediate use, I generally give away these books to my small community library in my own area, so that others who are unable to afford to buy such expensive books, at least they can get a value addition from there. I donate them, I give it to them, so that those books are, even there are a large number of children who are there. I am staying at a place in Delhi which is called as Chittaranjan Park. It has got a very small libraries, very small libraries are there, and they are very happily to take the books from us. And they said this is how we are, in fact they keep a particular day for when we, all of us, can donate the books to them, and that is how their collections is also building. Because there is a large number of children who are studying in different classes, but they need a lot of reference books.
Yes.
They must be, they must be consulting 2 reference books, but the third book, whether he should have it or not, he doesn't know. So what he should do, he just can walk in to these small community libraries and he can refer them at least. And those books are extremely valuable compared to even the newly purchased books. Why? Because those books are underlined. Many of us must have written some notes at the right. So it is a kind of a handy tool for them also. So when they augment their knowledge on that particular area.
So there is too much to talk about and too little time. We would like to now have some questions. Our panelists are very eager to answer your questions. Yeah, sure. I mean, is there a mic now? Who's our boy?
First, we can hear you out.
You can hear me?
Yeah, you can hear you.
I was recently reading a book called The Information by James Clegg, which I believe
Give
won
him-
the
yeah.
World Society Prize for Science Writing. And in that he states about how around 6 people who were afraid of, you had a lot of people who were afraid of the emergence of literacy, who was afraid of the emergence of writing, because they thought that people would forget to the ability to retain memory or knowledge based on memory. Do you think that today's fear of digitizing information is our version of that, that we are afraid of something that will in fact help human knowledge because it seems so alien and we do not see how it can expand our horizons more, and that's why we feel that maybe digital is not the way to go. Maybe it's an improvement over traditional libraries.
Anybody would like?
Harsh, I would like to say a few things about this, since you have touched a very, in fact in the previous session, I think one of the speaker was talking about revolution. I think he is a worshipper of Osho. I think it is a yes, it was a very philosophical. It's a re-evolution of digital environment. I'll give you a small instance of what, when I was the head of the libraries of IIM Lucknow, the founder of the IIM Lucknow was Professor Ishwar Dayal. He is currently running 82 years old. He has already broken his spinal cord, so he has got a metallic structure here and at the back. But when I was there, he used to climb to the first floor of the library, and he will hold my hand, he will say, I need a sofa to sit, and he will ask me, you get me these journals, I want to read it, and these books, I want to read it. One day, I took a little courage to ask him, because he is a very senior most, one of the renowned HR expert of the world. I asked him, sir, if you need this particular book or this particular paper or a journal, I could have given you a printout of that. Why you all the way you are coming to the first floor? He says, come here, I'll show you something. He opened the book and the journal and he said, you smell it. There is the person who is reading a book, from a printed book, he is passionate about it. He not only reads the book, he smells the book also. He smells the book also. So that is what I got the answer. I think if these people are still there in this country, printed books will never will go out of print. I can vouch for that, if these people are there.
I think it's more than the smell, though. It's actually an informational, it's actually a piece of information. When you look at an old book, the fact that the book has been held by lots of hands and has been fingered and falls open in a certain page, all of those things are information about what was useful in that book in previous times. So when I go to a library and I'm looking at a certain period, I'm interested in, say, World War II, I look at the books very quickly and I can almost immediately pick out which were the books published in the 50s versus the 60s because of the level of wear, but also the typography and the physical nature of the book. So it's actually not just a kind of a fetishistic smell, it's also a basic practical need, which is I want to find what I need to know quickly.
Yes.
And the physical existence of a bunch of books in front of me helps me get there quicker than if I do a keyword search, which is also amazing, and I use that too. But sometimes you triangulate. You get something from YouTube, you get something from the online catalog, you get something from standing at the stacks. In the end, you have something, enough juicy knowledge that you can squash together and come up with a book.
In the research field, I'll just take 1 minute. In a research context, if you look at print versus online, information retrieval is greatly facilitated by the IT applications. With the application of IT, you can get the information retrieved very fast. But still today, if somebody wants to read a Time magazine or an Economist, you will pick up a printed book from a stall and you will read it in a sunny atmosphere with a cup of tea. You will not open his Kindle and will go through it. He won't do it. Very rarely people will do it.
Yep.
I really want to ask you a question which is slightly different. The government keeps on talking about making this country a knowledge economy, while on the other hand we have a scene in, say, rural areas or even urban poor areas where people become literate and then lose their literacy because there's nothing to read. So there is a complete lack of libraries in the rural areas. So is there any way something can be done? I mean, we talk about the IGNCA. One of the things that I would recommend to you would be market yourself, market the library better. Because I know of so many art students who would be desperate to get into a library like yours. They may be sitting in Bolpur or Shantiniketan or maybe in Shillong, Meghalaya. But the problem is they don't know. So that's one area, that's a research kind of question. But my real question is towards that. Why don't we have, you have a Prime Minister's MNREGA, we have a housing thing. Why don't we have a Prime Minister's National Library Movement or
There is
whatever?
a mission, I think. There is a national library mission.
I-
Maybe Venu can talk
You
about that.
know, there are two government officers on this panel, and we are trying our best not to appear like government officers. And,
You're cornered now.
But
now I've been cornered
They spotted
because what you said is something which I can give you a little bit of information about. You asked about why the country is not putting giving importance to the library sector. If I may rephrase what you said, why isn't that we're not doing anything about this whole thing? It will gladden your heart to know that there is something called the National Mission on Libraries. It's a new creature. I was associated with the project in its formative period. We have a National Mission on Libraries which was formed 2 years ago with a mandate for developing the entire library sector, with a good part of the money which is being earmarked going into community libraries and public libraries, strengthening the existing ones, building new ones. But there is also a significant chunk of money which is being earmarked to take the digital library into the hinterland, into the most remote parts of the country. If you want more details, I'll be happy to send you links to that.
And coming to IGNCA, you know the point that Nicholas you made, that I find that all really eminent scholars, and you are very eminent yourself, they do believe in exactly what you stated, because you have a very pure and honest sort of belief about all the books and everything around you. But I look at it more like the gentleman sitting there who just raised this question. I look at it often in the way he said that there is somebody in the country who's passionate about some subject which is there in the library. So it's really our job to get this information out to people, that these are the kind of resources we hold. So come and read it if you want to. So perhaps there is a difference, as I'm again saying, in the West, that probably just a little research and you'll know what a library holds, you'll have a good idea, a fairly good idea, and with general levels of literacy being higher in the West. Out here, our challenge is really, I fully agree with you, that you leave people in the hinterland, it's people in Delhi. And I've had some alumni of colleges, I've actually had them come over. I had a Lady Shriram College alumni which came to see the library. And each one of them just said, God, we didn't know you have these kind of books. So this is really our focus now. is to put it out so that people can come and do what Nicholas said scholars love to do. So they become those persons who come into those corners, who pick up those unusual books, who read them, who research them. Because if you don't know, you don't know what's there, you don't know what you're missing. So that's a point, well taken. We already have it. It's already up there on the web. It's got a catalog of all our books. But as I was saying, it needs to be improved. It's how it's been put out. It's not got very good searchable sort of software at the moment. And we are updating it. But it does. I mean, a person who's really keen can, but he's got to even know that there is such thing as such a great library at IGNCA, and then he goes and does some more research.
Isn't there something called libraries in India, this listings, and from where you can go into a system
you can
where
Is there a thing? Goswamiji, is there? Listing?
Let me tell you that there is no, as on date, there is no census of libraries in India today. But there is an organization has been hired under the National Mission on Libraries. Correct me, Vasu, if I am wrong. And IMRB, Indian Market Research Bureau, they have been hired already to conduct a census of libraries in India, which is extremely important. And in that it will come out not only with the addresses, but also what is exactly the existing infrastructure or the capacity, manpower capacity is available in that particular library context.
I'm Anand from Booklink. I just wanted to ask you all, you come up with a lot of plans, you decide how to reach and what's the best method, to bring library to the people. Have you ever done an audit, whether it is reaching it or not? Your programs are successful to what level? How many people have come after, you have advertised? I have yet to come across any information which library has what kind of resources.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
That's a blind spot which library across India have. So, as a head of libraries and all that, or people like you sitting at the top must actually do favor to, you'll be doing a favor to people, letting them know what all you have and where all it can be accessed. And it has to be seriously done. Every action of yours or every policy that you make, you have to make an audit, whether it is reaching or not, or whether it is helping or not. And based on that, keep on changing your strategy. Otherwise, I don't think, if you take an example of libraries in Kerala, there have been old scripts and everything is biting dust. There's no record. Even if you ask the librarian there, he doesn't know. So the fact is, first of all, the people who are heading the library and across India, they need to themselves know what is there within their library, and then come up with a plan and tell people, where all you can access the information. So any input from your side, any audit has been done from your side which has been successful or failure, and anything such program you have done, can you enlighten us?
Can I respond back to him? It's absolutely a brilliant question. We have conducted for our Teddy library, and it is not a library, basically we call it as a knowledge management division. And you are absolutely right, there is a total change in the library profession is taking place globally, and we need to measure. In fact, I have developed a kind of what is called as performance scorecard. I have developed a scorecard to measure the libraries, the resources usage and all. Number one. Number two, we do a very aggressive marketing of our library. very aggressive marketing of our library, because popularization, outreach, dissemination is one of the major component in our library strategy document. We have given a lot of emphasis to that, and we do it very meticulously on these things. And I'll tell you, I'll give you an example why there is a change is taking place, because as Mr. Nick said, I come from a research library where getting a book from a publisher or getting a book from any vendor doesn't make my purpose, doesn't solve my purpose. Because unless and until that book reach out to my researcher, to my user. So what exactly we do, we need to understand. We may not be a subject expert on that, but certainly we take a help of a subject expert, a subject domain expert and all that, and we go through the content of each and every information which is there in the book. Number one, because that is how our library committee is constituted, drawn from different people. Second thing is that in Terry Library Information Center, we have set up a large number of specialized information centers. We have a specialized information centers on transport, on renewable energy, on climate change. These are the areas. Here in these information centers, only specialized information on that particular niche area one can get it, and not the entire gamut of energy and environment. So we have created that, but for that we have certainly taken the help of a knowledge expert on that, because we can't be a master of all and jack of all.
No, that's why you have the national mission.
He has mentioned it.
See, maybe
Venu
so you want to.
I think he answered it. We have that national mission on
In fact,
libraries. We have
National Mission Library is on paper. It's working very slow.
what's happened?
Okay, see what the gentleman just said, it is restricted to only Terry. Okay, what about other people who want to get that information? Are they aware Terry has this? No. So that's where the role of library and the librarian head should be.
No, the Terry Library is open for anybody. He can walk in if he wants to have a research in the field of energy, environment and sustainable development. He can walk in. It's a free library.
See,
he can come and he can do the research. I have opened it, and my team can help them to facilitate informations on these specialized areas.
I think Shantanu,
They can do
what
that.
he means is he's making a general point.
Yeah.
No, so I'll tell you, Terry, I have experience with Terry. Okay, I conducted a seminar on CSR, corporate social responsibility. And the first thing I asked Terry, whether do you have any information on CSR? For a person like, who's trying to bring CSR group together, and he has to ask whether, either it is my ignorance because I don't know Terry has it or not. So unless until, you advertise or you tell people, these are the knowledge you have, then only I think, then people will be comfortable coming to you rather than, moving around to either environment minister or going to the corporate, corporate libraries. At the end of it, you don't know where all the informations are kept. If that can be disseminated, I think the role of library would help, in general, and also for people who are, specializing, who want to specialize in that.
Yeah, I would like to conclude here now, but if there's any other question that you have, you can always meet the panelists outside and then you can have your discussion with them.
Thank you very much, everyone.